Ho, 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 and happy holidays, everyone! It is December here on Never Seen It, which means it's time for Christmas movies. I am your host today. My name is Betsy, and with me today and all holidays is Trent.
Boy, am I here.
Trent, as you can tell from the tone of his voice, is so enthusiastic about what is about to happen here today. For the next 4 Sundays, we are covering Christmas movies, and to kick it all off, we are watching the movie that I start every holiday season with, that I have seen, I would say, over 50 times, and yet have never subjected Trent to watching. We are watching the 1954 classic, White Christmas.
You've never even asked me to watch this, by the way, because you probably know that I'm not going to say yes.
I can't always convince you, and frankly, I'm glad I haven't tried because now we get to record your initial thoughts for posterity.
Okay.
So, Trent, you have never seen White Christmas. As I just said, I've seen this many times. What do you know about White Christmas?
I don't have a clue. I assume it has something to do with Christmas, and it's a musical.
It is a musical. This is from, the golden age of Hollywood.
Yeah, this is a lot of singing and dancing, and classic Hollywood tropes, I'm sure, are going to be aplenty.
Could be. This is certainly one of the older movies that we have watched for the podcast, and frankly, as a couple. We don't watch a ton of old movies.
I think Casablanca was the movie that came out the earliest that we have covered.
So far. So I know your depth of knowledge of this time frame of Hollywood is pretty shallow. You are kind of vaguely aware of some of the heavy hitters, but not necessarily the less common household names, at least 70 years removed.
And I know in this era there was basically a lot of musicals and a whole lot of westerns. And as far as who's in it, is it Bing Crosby? Is he one of the guys?
Bing Crosby is in this movie.
Okay. I assume that there is ladies in it of some kind because again they're singing and dancing. And they gotta have somebody to dance with because it's the 1950s. They can't dance with each other if they're men.
All right, I'll give you a softball question.
Okay.
Can you name a song that is going to be in this movie?
I'm gonna say it's called White Christmas.
Amazing! You nailed it, Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of fill you in on that, it's the songs of Irving Berlin. So he wrote White Christmas. It is other songs written by the same person.
Yeah. Is this the thing with sisters?
Maybe.
Okay.
Might could. That's the thing. I do know you have heard some of these songs.
Of course.
Because
I've lived with you for however many years.
Yes, I sing them around the house. And as I said, I've seen this many times. So every time I watch it, it gets rehashed in my brain.
Yeah.
But you don't know anything about the plot of this movie.
Hell no.
You don't know who these people are. You don't know what's about to happen.
I'm shaking my head, no.
Well, then we're just going to leave it at that. We are going to go and watch White Christmas, and we will be right back. And we are back. That was White Christmas. Trent, what did you think of this? And before you answer, remember, my hopes and dreams are in your hands.
Considering that your happiness is also my happiness, I'm gonna say I loved it.
Okay, but really, how did you feel about this movie?
It was fine.
It's fine.
It's completely expected. It's a musical. It's got a bunch of old-timey stuff. It's got a lot of singing and dancing, and that's all white people. I figured that.
It's called White Christmas.
It's very, very White Christmas.
It was 1954. I mean, it wasn't to be unexpected.
Of course. And I'm not ragging on it for that. It's, I just looking across the crowd and wow, okay, yeah. Anyway, it was fine. Now, coming from my perspective, I have zero history with this movie. We've covered it in the very short intro we had. I was coming at this from a position of watching it as a movie because I have no other context.
You have no nostalgia.
I only have you to bounce things off of. So I'm sitting here with a phone full of notes, asking a lot of questions and having observations, and I'm sure we're going to get into all of that. But I think the overall story is kind of cute. You know, these two couples meeting, and it's just fate that they're going to come together. I mean, it is almost a romantic comedy kind of a thing because it's not quite a meet cute, but I don't know. Like, the relationship between these two guys, I think, is more interesting than anything else.
Yeah, plot twist, this movie is very little about Christmas.
No.
It is called White Christmas, but this is a movie you could put on anytime you really wanted to because it doesn't get to the Christmas part until the last 35 seconds of the movie, pretty much.
Pretty much. Like, the title is the thing that you're leading up to.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a vehicle to reunite Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. They had made another Christmas movie a decade plus before this called Holiday Inn, and it was very similar. Another Irving Berlin musical. Some of the songs from that movie are in this movie.
All right.
So this is the time where it's basically a jukebox musical. It's all these songs from a certain person, and they just put a story around it. They just sort of find a way to work them in.
It's almost as if it's a greatest hits, but it's a movie.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so the story doesn't really matter. It's just how to contextualize the songs that they wanted to use for the movie.
Yeah.
Which is why Bing Crosby ended up singing White Christmas on film in 3 separate movies. It became a signature song for him. But the movie itself was just structurally, what's an excuse to reunite these guys?
Yeah, and the only way that you're going to be able to get him to sing a White Christmas, his most famous song, I would imagine, is to place it around Christmas. And it happens a couple of different times. It happens right at the beginning and right at the end.
Yeah, we bookend this movie with Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So it's very loosey-goosey in how we get it there. And then the rest of the story is 2 guys who were in the military during World War II, afterwards join forces, become musical theater sensations, and then they meet up with these sisters who are related to someone that they were in the military with.
Sure.
So it's this very like, okay, we kind of have a reason for them to get together. And then they all go up to Vermont and they run into the general who is on hard times, and it becomes this story of, well, gosh, we gotta put on a show and save the day.
Yeah, and like the spirit of like Christmas and like generosity and things like that are prevalent throughout the entire movie because the 2 guys help out the ladies because clearly they're very successful, they're probably very rich, and they can help them out in whatever way that they want to, really. And then we have the other story with the general. You know, the idea here is that he bought or built up, or I guess he probably bought it kind of run down. He bought this lodge. He bought it run down and he fixed it up.
Yeah, they said it was a grist mill. It was an old mill that closed down and they gutted it and they turned it into a ski lodge. Okay,
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that is what they did. But of course, it's 70 degrees in December in Vermont.
What the fuck is up with that?
There's no snow, and he is just sinking all his money into this thing, and he's, sad and forgotten.
Yeah.
So it becomes, like you said, it becomes a tale of them playing Santa Claus and goodwill towards men and trying to tell this man in the spirit of the holiday that he has not forgotten that people still care about him.
Yeah, except for, maybe these guys' crew members and other staff that they're calling back from their 10-day Christmas vacation. What? No, that's not cool.
They go to such an 11 so quickly in this movie because they're like, okay, at the beginning of the movie, everybody gets 10 days off with pay.
Yeah, paid vacation, go off with your families, but then right before Christmas, you call them all back?
Okay, they said round up who you can. It didn't sound to me like they were demanding your presence, but I think it was
unspoken.
They made it very lucrative for them to agree to come because they said everybody gets like an extra week's pay and the guy rounding them up gets a bonus, their stage manager.
Even still.
And it just turns into, we're going to use this barn and put on a production. And it is the most massive thing they could think of for Vermont. And this is one of the elements about this movie that I love. So they are shown at the beginning of the movie in Florida in a show called Playing Around. It is a Broadway review of sorts, and they've been touring the countryside with this show. When they go to Vermont, they say, we're going to take our old nightclub act, we're going to stick the girls in here and there, and they're going to make a show to put on there. If you look at the musical numbers that we are given, this is a really frenetic kind of show. There is no story here. It's basically just a reason to have a bunch of musical numbers together.
Yeah, it's a bunch of singing and dancing that has nothing to do with...
No story.
There's no through line to any of it. One time, you got this big number with all dudes dancing around. It's kind of like that Marilyn Monroe song of her and Pink.
Yep.
It's kind of like that with the big stairs. But then you go over to this other song where everybody's in a purple like bodysuit and they're kind of like doing an interpretive dance. It's very strange.
Yeah, there is an homage to the minstrel show. There is making fun of modern dance. There's a big tap number that we only get a sample of.
Yeah.
But here's where I can tell you it gets a little bit layered. So I mentioned this was supposed to be a reboot of sorts for Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby. But at this point in his career, Fred Astaire had actually retired. And he was like, no, I don't want to come out of retirement. I'm enjoying my retirement. He eventually did, like a year or two later.
Okay.
But he was very much retired, which is why Danny Kaye is in this movie. But the big minstrel show number, are you familiar with the concept of a minstrel show?
Only the ones that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, so the whole thing that you can take, the main thing you can take away from minstrel shows is people did blackface.
Yeah.
It is a very, very antiquated thing. And for them to do this big number being like, golly gee, I wish we could do those again, is really kind of weird. So I'm really glad that they don't go there because in Holiday Inn they do. The Abraham number that she tap dances to, I only just recently found out what they meant by the Abraham number. That is the same song they use in Holiday Inn when everyone's in blackface.
Okay.
So in just like 10 or 12 years, that little nugget changed. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen Holiday Inn once. I was not that into it, and maybe it's because by the time I saw it, I was progressive enough in my life to know that blackface is bad.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to watch it
and
just be like okay with it.
And my interpretation of this version of a minstrel show is that it is also supposed to be kind of silly and comedic, and you're allowed to have more fun with it than you would be able to with a regular song and dance number.
Right, and that's just the big glaring thing that now that I've gotten older and know this about that kind of theater, it adds another layer to this movie that is otherwise really like squeaky clean.
Yeah, I think if they actually did go all the way there, the movie would not have been as endearing as it is right now because we put it out there that we're going to do White Christmas and we got a couple of different responses already saying, hey, yeah, we watch it every year. It's one of my favorites. And you have plenty of friends who have the same opinions. In fact, we are recording this on December 1st. This is Friday, 2 days before the episode comes out, because, Betsy, you have a tradition. I don't know where this comes from. I don't think I've ever asked you. You watch White Christmas every year on December 1st. Why?
So White Christmas was a movie that was always playing in my house around the holidays when I was growing up because my dad loves White Christmas.
All right.
This movie makes my dad cry, if you can believe it. You know, this is another one of those, I guess you could call it old-time dad movies.
Okay.
Because it has some of those elements. The military and the granddaughter looking up at her granddad with such pride and, you know, bros being bros, but in a fun way.
And, I was kind of surprised that the general was almost crying there at the end when all of his men showed up.
He's very moved. It's a masculine kind of emotion.
Totally.
You know, so there's a lot of things that dads can draw from this, and my dad is one of them. But that is a movie that was always around, and I watched it every year at Christmas, and then I went to college, and I met my friend Maudie, who, hello Maudie, because I
Maudie.
know you're listening to this
Hi,
one.
Maudie.
And we were getting to know each other, and I don't know why the December 1st thing started, because it first was, it's now Christmas season. Basically, there's a pocket of people in the world that want it to be Christmas the second Halloween is over.
Okay.
I am not one of those people.
No.
I am a December person. I don't deal with Christmas until after Thanksgiving, and December is my big kickoff. So December 1st, we all decided to get decked out in red, white, and green. And we just put on these just ridiculous outfits and went to class, and we took photos and posed in front of a Christmas tree, and it was just really fun. And I don't even remember, I don't think it was my freshman year that we did it on the 1st, but either like the sophomore or junior year.
Okay, so you're thinking like 2004, 2005?
I imagine we watched it because as we were getting to know each other, Maudie and I found out we both loved this movie. Similar thing. Her family watches it all the time,
Coming
every
from
single year.
A very musical family too.
Yes.
Yep.
And so I'm sure watched it my freshman year, but it wasn't until like sophomore or junior year that we just said December 1st. That's the day we're kicking it off. That's the day we watch White Christmas. Mm-hmm. And she was studying abroad in Germany and was actually awake at like a weird time, like later in the day, and maybe it was a Saturday, but we were instant messaging each other on AOL Instant Messenger, and I said, I'm about to watch it, and she said, wait, I'm gonna watch it with you, and we synced up our VCRs, because I'm pretty sure I had a tape in those days, and we watched it from across the globe, and every single year, on December 1st. Ever since then, this is the first Christmas movie I watch. This is the movie I have seen more than probably any other Christmas movie. And I'm always wearing red and white and green. And I text her and she's got her outfit picked out.
I can attest to this.
Yes.
Betsy went to work this morning in I guess you could call it one of those ugly sweaters. There's a big cat on the front of it with a Santa hat, and there's like lights everywhere. And yeah, it was not really elaborate, but yeah, you went there.
But it's red and white and green,
Indeed.
so I wore it.
Indeed.
So yeah, it's just a bonding thing. Maudie and I have formed this ritual, and every single year, it doesn't matter if I am busy all friggin' day.
Oh yeah.
I will get up at 5 a.m. and watch 40 minutes of this and then watch the rest before I go to bed. But I will watch this movie on December 1st.
Yeah, and you and I have been together for 12 years. This will be our 13th Christmas together, and I do believe I can attest, Maudie, that Betsy has watched this movie every single day, including the days where she, I think, had to work until like 10 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll stay up late. I'll get up early.
Yeah, you like probably had to work a show or something, and you came home and immediately you sat down. You probably like brought some food home with you to have for dinner, and you just ate in front of the TV watching the movie.
Or watched it on my phone. I've watched it like on my lunch break. If it's streaming on something. It's just the thing that I do. So I have absolutely got no shame in admitting that this is my favorite Christmas movie. And I also understand that it is not perfect. There are plenty of things that I can point out to you that I'm like, well, that's just silly. And this is just dumb. And that doesn't make any sense. But I don't care. I don't care.
It's not that kind of a movie.
It's not that kind of a movie. But to bring it back to the actual content of the movie, let's talk about the stars. So the four leads in this movie, Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen. Now, obviously, the name Clooney jumped out to you.
And I knew this. Rosemary Clooney is the aunt of George Clooney.
She's also the mother of, I think it's Jose Ferrer? No, Mel Ferrer? I don't remember. Her son is also an actor. He was in RoboCop.
Okay. Okay.
So that's George Clooney's first cousin. I'm pretty sure we talked about that when we watched RoboCop.
All right.
But yeah, those four have all brought something very different to this movie. Bing was known as a crooner.
Yep.
Danny Kaye is a comedic guy. Rosemary Clooney was another singer. She was a recording artist. And then Vera Ellen is a dancer.
Yeah. I looked up a little bit about Vera Ellen, and she was I think one of the youngest Rockettes to ever perform. And you can tell, because those legs went way high up.
Yes, this is a great vehicle for her as a dancer, because if you think about this, most of the time when you see a movie that is a musical, it's the two leads get paired up. Now, she does dance with Danny Kaye, and he can tap, and he's holding his own, but she is doing the bulk of the work.
Of course.
When they have their number. And the rest of the movie, she is paired up with the lead male dancer, who is just kind of this nameless dude who is also there.
Yeah, he's the handsome guy who is doing all the really elaborate moves along with her, because the other guys just can't do that much.
Because if they had made this movie the way they wanted to, that would have been Fred Astaire.
I'm sure.
They would have paired the dancer with the other dancer. And it never really occurred to me until probably this viewing that that's what's going on there. Like, why does she get split off from all the singers?
Yeah.
Because she is literally the only dancer in this movie.
I mean, I didn't know the Fred Astaire fact, obviously, but I did notice that, oh yeah, those other guys probably wouldn't be able to do all those moves, so why not have a different guy do it so that she can be paired up with somebody
who is more at her skill level.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Because it's much more impressive when she is being like tossed around and she is being lifted in the air and she's doing flips and kicks and she is tapping as fast as she fucking can. It's a very different thing when she's dancing with Danny Kaye. That scene is very like elegant. Like, he is just very tall and suave.
Yeah, and this
it's
is
just
them falling in love. Yeah. It's that whole thing.
It's a nice moment, and it doesn't need to be over-the-top dancing. In fact, if you catch at the very, very end, she trips over his foot.
Oh.
They have a blooper in this movie. And again, another one of those things I didn't notice many, many viewings. But I've seen this now enough times that I can look at other spots on the screen to pick up new information.
Sure.
Because I know what's going on in the center. I'm going to look at their feet. But yeah, she trips over his feet and they just finished the number, but it was the best take, so they used it.
Sure.
But yeah, she is the only dancer in this movie, and she's just phenomenal. Then you've got her paired up with Danny Kaye. I would be willing to bet you have almost no idea who Danny Kaye is.
I know who he is, but I've never seen him in anything. My reference to Danny Kaye is when George Carlin, the comedian, talked about Danny Kaye. He totally looked up to Danny Kaye and he wanted to be like him, but he didn't have the talent to be like a singer or anything else, so he just followed the comedic route.
Yeah, Danny Kaye's whole thing was he uses his body, like he's a very physical comedian. He gets to do it a little bit in here. Like when Bob is on the phone and he says, wow, and he just does this little slip take.
Yeah.
Where he sort of just fumbles and then tenses back up again.
Yeah.
He does that a number of times in this movie. And he is, a nice singer. He's not a great singer, but he is a good singer. And so he gets to be funny and he gets to be elegant and he gets to fall down the stairs and just talk about internal hemorrhages.
a very slight compound fracture.
It's a very small compound fracture. I'll be fine.
But I'll tell you this, he does hold his own with Bing Crosby, not only from a singing point of view, in my mind anyway, but the dialogue that they go back and forth with. They go very, very quickly with the dialogue here, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate, because that just accentuates the comedy and the comedic elements that they're trying to pull off here, especially early on in the movie when you're being introduced and they're in the dressing room and they're talking about Bing Crosby being a miserable human being and things like that. Like, them talking really fast back and forth was the best part of it.
That is also a common thing from this time frame. You had,
he
makes
of the era.
Joke, the comic and the crooner.
Yes.
Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis did this whole thing later on.
Sure.
There are a number of pairings where there was one guy who was the straight man, who was a really good singer, and then the other guy who could sing, but he was more funny. But you're right, he is holding their own, and they have great chemistry together.
They do.
Where they're just rattling off of each other. And this movie, once it starts, just kind of doesn't stop. There's really not a lot of downtime, so you're right, the dialogue is very quick. Keep moving, keep the story going, don't stop.
And of course, with most musicals, especially back in the day, the music parts really padded out, in my opinion, because, I'm not really there for the music. I'm here for the story. I'm here for the movie part of the movie. And Yeah, the movie is 2 hours long. It doesn't need to be that long.
You could have trimmed some of this.
Yeah.
Well, I will disagree, but only because
That's
I'm
fine.
going to do that.
That's fine. I am not begrudging anybody who loves this movie whatsoever, or even musicals in general. There have been plenty of musicals that I enjoy. This is not one of them.
So speaking of the musical element,
Yes.
the other two people we haven't talked about yet are Rosemary Clooney and Bing Crosby. So both of these two had careers as recording artists, and the acting came later. Bing Crosby, would it surprise you to know that people considered him a very sexy human being?
I don't think it would. No, I don't think that would surprise me.
In the 1930s, when he was kind of on, or the 20s and 30s, I guess, when he was on the rise, in his career, people didn't sing like Bing Crosby, and he caused like quite a stir when he came about because he just has this very low vibrato.
He just kind of sits on his vocal cords and does not leave.
No, and it was a time where most guys that were like well-known singers were like high tenors.
Yeah.
Like very high tenors. So for this guy to come in and be like, hello.
It sounded better on the radio.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place that you really listen to music.
You're right. And when he finally was able to get into the movies, he was usually being comedic because, you know, he was paired up with Bob Hope for a long time.
Sure.
So Bing Crosby has this career of being paired with other people, and he's always the crooner and they do something else. But he gets to be the singer in that scenario. And then, of course, Rosemary Clooney, I don't even know how many movies she made. I have never seen another Rosemary Clooney movie. This is it. This is the beginning and end for me as far as her career is concerned. But because she was a recording star, this is one of the most interesting things about this movie and the music as far as it pertains to her. So two things. One, because she was a recording artist, she had a contract with, I think, Columbia Records, which meant when they put out the soundtrack for this movie, she's not on it. The official movie soundtrack for White Christmas does not feature one of the leads because she was under contract with another studio.
Yeah, back in the 50s and 60s, you didn't really have like entertainment contracts. We talked about this when we did the Elvis movie. And these record companies were fucking ruthless, especially if you were really popular and they knew that you had a future. But what did they do instead? Did they just not include the stuff that she sang on, or what happened there?
They had another singer.
Oh.
They got a completely different singer to be featured on it. It was still Danny Kaye, and it was still Bing Crosby. But here's the other wrinkle. In this movie, Vera Ellen does not sing.
Oh, okay.
Her vocals are doubled by Rosemary Clooney.
What?
Every time you hear Judy singing, that is Rosemary Clooney. So when she's singing Sisters, she's singing it with herself.
I got a really weird look on my face right now because I'm just, my mind is kind of blown here.
Well, it's that thing we talked about. I think it was when we watched Moana, and we were talking about The Rock sang in that movie.
Yeah.
Did he need to sing? No, they could have gotten anybody to do the vocal for him. But in this modern time, they tend to let the person who they have cast do the singing. They don't double the vocal.
And they have auto-tune for just such an occasion, so yeah.
But in the 1940s and 50s, people were fucking shameless. They didn't give a shit if you could sing or not. They will shove anybody's voice over you to get it done.
Yeah.
And they already had Rosemary Clooney. Why hire another singer when she can just do both parts?
Well, they were still doing it up until like the 90s, like Disney movies, like in the Little Mermaid and I think Aladdin.
Oh, pretty much all of those.
All of the big ones in the 80s and 90s have different singers than the regular voice actors.
Some of them are the same, but a lot of them, it's one singer and one actor.
Yeah.
And so it's not that weird for 1954 because Vera Ellen was a dancer.
Right.
Clearly, this woman is a dancer.
Sure.
Not everybody got to do everything, though. And
Not everybody was a triple threat.
But here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that she did sing because I have seen her in another musical. She was in On the Town. But I'd have to investigate if she does any of her own singing in that or if it's another like ghost voice. But people have made entire careers out of this. Have you ever heard the name Marni Nixon? Have I ever mentioned her to you?
No.
She is like the pinnacle of ghost singers. She did the singing for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady for the most of it. She also sang for Deborah Kerr in The King and I. She also sang, I know there's a third one, but I'm forgetting what it is. But like these major musicals where you would expect them to cast someone who can sing. No, they just cast a really good actor who maybe could sing a little, but couldn't quite pull it off the way they wanted.
This was the era of the beginning of the movie star. Audrey Hepburn was a giant star. They didn't care if you couldn't sing. They could just fix it in post.
But that's the thing. Audrey Hepburn could sing, but she had like a nice voice, like kind of a small voice.
Yeah.
When you're trying to do this big soprano, like full Broadway musical like My Fair Lady, you need someone with the pipes to match. Anyway, I just think that's a really weird little thing that I didn't find out until many years on about this movie. That number one, Rosemary Clooney sings two parts, and number two, there is no official movie soundtrack because her voice is under contract to another studio.
That's crazy.
But since we're on the topic of the music, there were obviously a lot of musical numbers in this. Did any stand out that you particularly enjoyed or just despised?
Okay, we gotta talk about some of the songs here, mainly because of the lyrics.
Okay.
I would say the worst offender is the one at the end of it when they're singing in front of the general. It's the song about, hey, the army's great.
Gee, I wish I was back in the army.
I wish I was back in the army, you know, during World War II when I'm being shot at and bombed and everything else. And I'll tell you this, the 151st Tank Division must have been the luckiest motherfuckers out there because there's a whole lot of them left.
And they're all excited to see each other and they actually want to get together.
And they're the ones who also left their family on Christmas to go to their former general's party.
Well, since we got here, I'll segue away from the question I asked first, and then we'll come back to it.
Okay.
It is interesting to make a movie in 1954 about veterans. That is what this is. It is a movie about veterans.
You're right.
And when it was World War II above any other, when there was television and radio, and people were a lot more connected than they were in World War I.
And there was a lot higher percentage of people that survived that war came home. There's a huge number of people who went to war and came back.
As opposed to World War I, where they just kind of went and died.
Went and
died.
Yeah.
But it is a bizarre sort of thing when you kind of think about how close this was. Like, this is a 10-year get-together, basically.
Pretty much.
Calling everybody out. You know, if you want to be the cynical person, those people might be willing to leave their families on Christmas Eve because they have PTSD, and these are the guys who understand them.
They need that comfort.
They need
to hear from their general barking at him.
Not to make this a really bit of a downer of an episode.
But that's the thing. That's the stuff that I think about when I'm in the future. I'm also in the future, Betsy. But the idea that these guys are coming out there and saying, hey, man, I wish I was still in the army because I didn't have any responsibilities. I just had to listen to the general and I just marched on my merry way and it was a grand old time. No, it wasn't. And I don't know whether or not they just didn't want to bring down the crowd or what.
But again, it's that thing of in America in the 1940s and really everywhere in the world, but especially it feels like in America, there was this whole support the troops and America is great, but it was a united thing. Everybody was very united on this, and it was all, pitch in and do your part. And
it was American propaganda, yes.
And that was still very much ingrained even 10 years later.
Yeah. And they didn't talk about PTSD. They didn't talk about, when we were kids, we knew plenty of World War II veterans. My grandpa was in the war. I think yours were too.
At least one of them was in World War I.
Really?
And then Korea.
Really?
Well, my great-grandpa was.
Great-grandpa. Okay, I never knew my great-grandpa.
Well, I didn't find out until like 2 weeks ago my great-grandpa was enlisted in World War I.
Oh, wow.
But he never went over. He made it to New Jersey. He was about to be shipped out and the war ended.
Okay.
So he never actually went, but he was enlisted.
Fair enough. But yeah, I heard some stories from my grandpa about World War II. Obviously not the ones that you shouldn't talk to an 8-year-old about. But I just don't think that generation of veterans really started to talk about their experiences until much, much later in life.
Probably not, but there are a ton of movies like this where it's just guys who met during the war, because everybody in these days met during the war.
Yeah, and it's also why a place like the VFW back in the 70s and 80s really started to become a thing, because not only did you have World War II vets out there who were supporting each other, you also started to get Korean War vets and Vietnam vets all coming back around the same time, having the same experiences, and actually having that camaraderie with guys who came before them. Those veterans halls were very, very important, and they don't talk about it in this movie, but in the 1950s, maybe this thought of, hey, coming together as a group, maybe getting together every so often to, salute our superiors, or just talk amongst each other. We all scatter. Everybody comes from different places. Let's all get together and have a good time.
Because not everybody left the war and formed a powerful musical duo.
Right? To bring it back up a bit.
So to bring it back to the musical numbers. So you've got that out of your system now. Let's pick the cheerier songs.
I mean, we could just talk about the one about the unemployed generals.
Yes, there is another military song that's basically saying, what do you do with all of these guys now that war is done?
All of the regular grunts and soldiers got skills that they can apply to regular jobs. Like generals are kind of glorified, mid-level supervisors.
They're overqualified for most positions at normal facilities in America.
But you can't bring those skills of barking orders at people to an office anywhere.
No, you'd get fired.
Yeah.
If you were actually...
Even in the 50s.
If you were actually acting the way you did on the battlefield, it doesn't translate. But yes, they have a whole song about it. And then they say, come and support your general, get on the train, leave your family, your war buddies are more important.
Yeah. I guess just a couple more. We don't have to cover every single one of them. But what I called the Snow Quartet... when they're on the train.
It's called Snow.
It is called Snow, but I prefer Snow Quartet.
Okay.
Because there are 4 of them. They all
Technically only 3, but all right.
You know what I'm talking about, though. And I would just like to know how many times they say the word snow.
I will count the next time I listen to it. It's a lot.
And the last one I will mention is the choreography song? ? What is that about?
It's literally called choreography, and it's just a song that is making fun of modern dance.
Is that what that is?
Basically, you have to remember so much of this movie, especially numbers like that, is really rooted in the time and place this movie was written and filmed. And this would have been, I don't know how many years later. I think in the 1930s, 30s or 40s, is when modern dance really exploded, and people were not ready for it. They were just like, what is this? Bodies and costumes, and it's very unique and lit in the music, and it was just so bizarre for people. Mm-hmm. And then it just kept growing from there. So this is more of a statement on, dance used to be fun. People just used to go out and tap their feet and wave their hands and swing and jive. And it was just a good time. And now people are very serious and wearing these dark costumes and posing. And, I have a roommate from college and many friends who were into modern dance. And yeah, it can be very ridiculous. It can be beautiful, but if you are not well versed in it, if you are not around it, the first time you see it, it's a bizarre experience sometimes.
Okay.
So yeah, that whole number is just, I'm going to pose and be very dramatic while somebody else is doing what we think dance actually is, which is this really energetic, high-level, complicated tap. And this is not to poo-poo modern dance. Again, I have seen some fucking astonishing things in modern dance.
Sure.
But in 1954, it was very modern. It was very, very modern.
I'm going to say this to all of our listeners. I am not this person who knows anything about dance or musicals or any of this theory that Betsy's talking about, this is the Betsy Show. I'm going to say this right now. This episode is brought to you by Betsy.
For Betsy.
For Betsy. Yes.
But it's okay. You can find moments of joy in this.
Of course. And I'm not saying I had a bad time or anything like that. It is more, okay, all right, this is what this is. There's this kind of cute love story here. I think the age differences are a little much, but okay, I'll get past that.
All right, let's talk about the age differences since you touched on it. So when he made this movie, Bing Crosby was the ripe old age of 51 years old.
Yeah.
Rosemary Clooney, playing his love interest, was nearly half his age at 26.
I was going to say probably mid to late 20s.
Now, when you are a child and you're watching this movie, or even if you just watch this movie having no context whatsoever, it's the thing you and I always talk about. The way people dressed and the way they were made up makes everybody look older.
Yes.
You could have told me she was 18. You could have told me she was 45. And I would have said exactly, that's what I thought.
Also, her voice sounded older than what it was.
She has a very deep, mature voice.
Yes, indeed.
But 26 years old she is, playing against Bing Crosby at 51.
You know what, 51, he doesn't look all that bad, especially with the tan. The tan kind of makes him look a little bit younger.
And we are watching this movie in high definition. Like, we got a good version of this.
Yep.
And it's amazing when I'm looking at this, even as many times as I've seen this, noticing things I never noticed before because it's in high def.
Well, you told me, I think last year when you saw this for the first time in high definition, you saw colors that you never thought were there.
The choreography number's purple.
Yeah.
I thought they were in black.
When you were watching this on your VHS tapes and your DVDs,
My shitty little screens.
On your bad screens, yeah, you thought they were black because you couldn't see all the colors. Same thing about, I think Rosemary Clooney is wearing a green velvet dress at the party when she's kind of like stomping around the place and being grumpy in front of people. That's where they have the fake engagement and whatnot. That's a green velvet dress. You never noticed that.
Never. And then this time, I don't think I ever noticed that the general has a fur-lined hood in the very opening scene.
Okay.
That was like a fuzzy hood, and I'm like, what do you know? This is the thing I love about watching movies as many times as I've seen this one is I get the luxury. I can look at other stuff. Like, you're just looking at the main act because you've never watched this. I wasn't really looking at them. I'm looking at the background dancers, and I'm looking at that lady over there.
Yeah.
What's she doing? That woman is wearing a pink glove. What's that about?
I also noticed early on, Danny Kaye, like his jacket, his pants, his socks, and his shoes all match.
This is an intentional choice. The costume designer for this movie is Edith Head, and this is the movie that I first heard who this woman is. She is a legend, and I'm talking the legend to end all legends in costume design.
How many Oscars does she have?
8. Not only that,
I knew you knew that.
not only that, she was the one who campaigned for that category. This woman is the reason costume design is an Academy Award.
And I'm sure that a lot of other people, the stars included, probably campaigned along with her. Because without her designs and everything else, the stars may have just not looked as good, and maybe they wouldn't have had a big career.
Literally, she made them look and feel their best.
Yeah.
And the thing with Danny Kaye, in that scene, she wanted to accentuate how tall he is. So she made him all gray socks, gray shoes, because it just lengthened him.
Yeah,
He's
I get that.
He's tall and skinny to begin with, and that is just creating the illusion of more height.
Yeah, and of course, the lady he's dancing with is all legs.
All
legs. Holy shit.
And Vera Ellen, if you notice, and maybe you didn't notice this, every single outfit she is wearing has a high collar, even her pajamas.
Why is that, to hide her, like, swan neck or something?
No, actually. There is an urban legend because Vera Ellen did suffer from anorexia.
Okay.
And it caused premature aging that people say, oh, well, she had horrible like scarring on her neck and that's why they had to hide it. No, she just looks really good with high collars. Like she made movies before and after this where she doesn't do that. It was just kind of a signature look for her. And Edith Head just was like, okay, I could do that.
That's your thing.
And she's wearing turtlenecks when she's dancing. She's wearing turtlenecks when they're on the train. She is wearing fucking high collars when she sleeps. All of her pajamas and her robes.
And they have multiple pairs of pajamas that they bring with them on this trip.
You don't travel with 4 sets of matching top and bottom silk pajamas, Trent.
Oh, there's some things in here that just bother me. Like
the logic.
Yeah, Danny Kaye has this giant coat when they come off of the train.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't have that in your trunk.
Didn't he?
No.
How do you know?
I know this, Betsy. I have a big jacket like that. You can't fit it in anything.
Well, in those days, suitcases were enormous and they had no wheels.
You're right. But that's why you pay the kind people on the train, you know, like the one not white person on the train who's the bartender. You pay them to help you with your trunk.
Yeah, there's whole careers made for people who just haul luggage on and off trains.
Yep.
Okay, well, you have already noticed that I know about 1,000 things about this movie, so I'm trying really hard to keep this under a 4-hour episode. So, Trent, what other things, before we wrap this up, do you have that you want to talk about?
One of them is this being a musical and having the music and the lyrics and everything else pre-recorded and dubbed over the top of the dancing and the acting. It is so abrupt. It's almost like violence to the viewer because they just cut from speaking to each other on the set to I'm singing. It just takes me out of it and I just have to laugh at it every single time.
And the time that you pointed it out is the blessings number when he starts singing When You're Worried and You Can't Sleep.
Yeah, that.
You were like, dear God, he's just singing all of a sudden. Later on, he decides to work that into the show, suggesting that he literally was singing in her face out of nowhere. Who does that? Who just breaks into song? Not me. Certainly not me, Trent.
Well, you could also tell that was definitely him because he, like, after one of the rehearsals, he goes down to the piano and starts singing. And I think that happens 2 or 3 other times. He's just at the piano singing to people.
Yeah, it's the difference between we're really singing and we're singing but not really. It's just an expression of our feelings.
Yeah.
And in this, there's a lot of musical numbers where they are on a stage and it is clear that they are performing.
Right, and that was the other thing that bothered me about this. And I know that it's an unnatural thing to just start singing in your normal life, but at the same time you're putting on a show and you're doing rehearsal, but it's also for the audience who's not actually there, but it's for the audience who is watching at home
In the theater.
In a theater. It pulled my mind in 5 different directions, and it's bad. I don't like this.
Well, there's a lot of them looking straight into the camera.
Yeah.
Which is unusual.
They're doing the thing that you would do on Broadway. You're just smiling for the crowd.
Looking right down the tube.
Yeah.
And I think if you had grown up like I did watching these musicals, it's
I did
less
not.
weird.
I did
so
not.
I completely understand that this is a jarring experience for someone who does not watch musicals from the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mm-hmm. Next thing. What are all of these magical taxis that just show up out of nowhere?
They're just hanging out, waiting to be summoned.
3 times. When they're escaping the venue where the Sisters song is played, they just, snap their fingers and there's a taxi. Then the guys escape and there's another taxi waiting there. And the 3rd time is Betty takes a taxi all the way from New York up to Vermont to have her dropped off at this lodge.
Well, I think she took a train and then got a taxi.
I think it's the magical taxi, Betsy.
It's one taxi.
It's one taxi.
It drove someone all the way from Florida to Vermont.
Seriously.
That guy has nothing better to do. Is it Santa Claus? Is that why it's magical? To bring it back to Christmas?
But yes, next time you watch this movie, look at the taxis and how they arrive and how quickly they arrive. It just doesn't work.
People just throw up a hand and there's 4 taxis within spitting distance.
It's better than Uber. Come on.
They didn't have Uber in 1954.
It's better than Uber, Betsy. Another question that I had is, in the front lines of the war, Where did they get the snowy backdrop for their little Christmas number?
They made it with the paint they obviously have and the elaborate
all
paintbrushes.
All of the time that they have.
They have so much downtime they were able to put on a show.
Oh my God.
So, you know. Listen, you made me watch Jarhead. He sits in the war and doesn't do anything the whole time he's there.
You're not wrong, but, they do have military things to do.
Oh, fine. Like
here and there.
Put on musical numbers. That's a military thing to do.
I guess. The last thing I have to talk about is, good God, are these guys famous? Seriously, they're on the front, the names are on the front page of Variety magazine every single week for like years. Like, these guys are super popular. They had a Broadway show for 2 years straight, then they took it out on the road themselves.
Because you have to. The kind of show they made stars them. It is written by and starring them.
Seriously, they had the stage show, then they have a TV show. They probably had radio shows in there as well. Holy shit.
Which is why when they have an impromptu surprise and they come out dressed as the Haynes sisters and do the sisters number.
That's a treat.
That is a fucking treat. That is like us going to a restaurant and the most famous people in the world come out and do a song and dance. That would be a fucking shock to the system.
Or it would be more like you go to like a dinner theater where one of the main stars on stage isn't just some schlub from the local theater.
No, he's not some local art teacher or something.
Right.
He's an actual Broadway star.
Exactly. They just show up at your dinner theater unannounced and like, oh my God, what is going on? That's the thing here.
And fun fact, because I can't stop with the fun facts, that wasn't supposed to be in the movie, but they were fucking around on set one day and they thought it was funny and they put it in the movie.
It was funny.
It was.
But yes, that is all I have to talk about, Betsy. What, should I ask the question? Did you have anything else to talk about?
Trent, I have so many more, but I'm going to pick 2 very tiny things to keep this brief. One,
tiny, she says.
One, the fact that when they're on the train, Judy orders a malt.
Yeah?
That is such a 1950s drink.
Betsy, my dad loves a malt.
Trent,
your dad
my
loves
dad
a malt.
loves malt.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Chocolate malt.
Not vanilla. She has a vanilla malt.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be interested to know, listeners, have you ever had one? Because I think the number of people that even know what that is dwindling.
And people who were born in the 40s and the 50s are dying off slowly, and I don't think there's going to be a market for malts anymore.
Maybe not, except for you and me. Like, I like a malt once in a while.
I've never had a malt.
You've never...
No, I've never had a malt.
I'm going to have to see about this, because I like a malt once in a while. I would make them, because we always had the powder at home.
Yeah. I don't think I would like the malt powder kind of gets me though. I don't want to keep talking about malts.
Okay, the last thing, and I promise this is the last thing. At the end of the movie, they have said, we're going to do this show. We're going to bring in everybody and we open on Christmas Eve.
Yep.
And then change of plans. We're going to invite all of the military. So now they're not making any money on this show because they've just invited all of these people and their families. Mm-hmm. And they have filled this in. So none of this is going to make any money for this guy until the show actually begins. But to add insult to injury, they sit the general behind the giant cake and he has the worst seat in the theater.
I never noticed that.
He is right behind a 3-tiered cake with 6-inch candles sticking out of it, and he has to lean to the right to even see this show.
Is he literally leaning?
I don't know if he's leaning, but he has to position his seat so that he can avoid the massive cake.
That sucks.
It's just this stupid thing that doesn't matter and shouldn't bother me, but it always bothers me. Because if I'm the guest of honor, I want to see this show taking place in my facility that is supposedly going to save my business, and I'm in front of the fucking cake.
Yeah, they couldn't bring the cake and push it off to the side once he blows out the candles. Yeah, I understand you want it central to, have everybody be able to see him blowing out the candles and whatnot, but, maybe cut the cake and then put it off to the side where people can just get it as at their leisure.
Usually when you blow out the candles, you serve the cake after. Instead, they were
Yeah.
like, no, we're serving musical numbers. 2, 3, 4 of them. We don't really know. We're just going to launch into a series of events.
Yeah,
and there is no cake.
Meanwhile, not only does no one eat the cake, but they also open up the doors while it's snowing outside in the middle of winter.
And everybody oohs and ahs like imbeciles. Ooh, snow!
Right, but then people are in their, like, fancy dresses and whatever else. They're going to be freezing their asses off.
But it's snowing. It's magical and Christmassy.
No, Betsy, it's winter in Vermont.
It's wonderful. It's a wondrous time. And it's the greatest movie that's ever existed.
Betsy, you're wrong.
All right, fine. That is going to do it for White Christmas. Is this your favorite Christmas movie? Is this your least favorite Christmas movie? Tell us your thoughts. Email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. You can also send us a message on any of our social media sites. We look at those every single day. You can send us a note on there. Tell us all about the movie. Most of all, we would love if you go to your podcast app of choice, rate us 5 stars, write us a review, and help us grow the show. As we go into 2024, we would love your support to get more followers. And as a reminder, in the month of December, we are only doing our Christmas movies on Sundays. So we're giving you a little bit of a breather, giving us a breather. We aren't doing Wednesday episodes.
Yep.
But we will have 3 more Christmas movies and our awards special.
That's right.
Which will include a special secret announcement that you'll have to find out about at that time.
That's right. Not to keep on teasing it, but that's what you do in the biz.
That I guess so. But that is not what we are doing next week. Next week, we are going to keep on with the holiday spirit, or maybe the lack of holiday spirit, because we are going to the 1980s and we are watching Scrooged.
I think maybe only our second Bill Murray movie on this show.
At least for where he's a star. He's
Yeah.
shown up a few times, but
maybe.
not really as a lead.
Yep.
But you have to wait until next Sunday for that episode. In the meantime, this has been Never Seen It. My name is Betsy.
My name's Trent.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.